Alright, it's been a while since I've done one of these, but with Gratz coming to a close, it didn't seem right to just leave out the last few chapters unnarrated. So yeah, here we go for the last two chapters of Gratz. We got Nighttime Terrors. Nice little creepy page I did. I do like this moon in the title right there. Despite, there being a night sky, the moon only shows through the title. It was just a bit of fun. So, let's get with it. So we got, of course, every scary night is preceded by, I guess, a nice morning. So we got Aurora getting up and getting ready for the day and trying to pick out something new. Basically, this was a chance to do at this point, I had already decided to end Gratz at this point, but I didn't want to end with the final designs the characters had, because I didn't think that they represented the best design language version of those characters. So this was a chance to basically design for final impressions. So that's what I did here. We got them also waking up and getting ready for a nice character redesign as well. So we got kind of some teases going on. We got the boots with the shin guards, a big belt, Sarah Verge's new gloves. Tyria's got the goggles back now, but instead of them being up on her head, she's going to be wearing them down around her neck. Like I said, this was to leave last impressions of the characters. And so, with Tyria being an engineer, I didn't want to end the story of her not wearing her goggles or having them apparent. So this is a very clear example of that. We got Aurora, of course, getting her hair into place. And all of them, interestingly enough, have fingerless gloves. That's just... I can't remember why I went with that. I think it was to try and not have just like a whole gloved hand there at the end. But yeah, so that is something else that's done in there. So we get the nice, I guess, reveal shots of their new and what will become their final looks. And so once again, this is just to kind of highlight the visual design language on the characters, with Aurora's design being very top heavy with the kind of the diamond shaped boob window there, but the shoulder plates kind of widening her upper width, and to kind of tie into the hero aspect of her, instead of just doing a cape like I have typically done. I went with this kind of a half skirt tail thing here to kind of work as the cape. The reasoning for why I don't ever do full capes with her was so that way when you see her back, you can see her tattoo on the back of her, which as I said before, all the tattoos of the characters serve as kind of an emblem in a way of you can just recognize, what character it is just based on that emblem. And so if she had a full cape, it would always hide that, so it wouldn't work. Sarah Verge, we've seen how he's changed a good bit over the story, where instead of just wearing gray, he now has a dark navy blue kind of hoodie that he wears. But we got some stuff here, like still has a belt to carry the sword, some not metal, but kind of leather shoulder pads for protection, along with some metal studs in there just to add some visual variety, and some gloves. I guess at this point all of them are going to be wearing gloves just for handling different stuff. But yeah, so his visual design has changed very, very slightly over the course. He started off in a black vest, and now he wears a dark blue hoodie. So he's got a bit more color in his palette now than he used to have. And Tyrea, her design language to set her apart from Aurora was always the visual weight is on the hips and legs. And so we see with a very minimal upper region of her, um, the or minimal design to not have to kind of just further exaggerate the lower weight, as well as I said with the goggles, bringing those back, so we can see her engineer behavior and such. But aside from just a wide belt and these little half belt things kind of going on here, because I did like that 4 belt design that she had back in Führer, no, just 2 belt design. But it still kind of harkens back to that. Got the ammo pouches and knee pads on her. To once again just add more visual complexity in the lower half of her, as her kind of representing her final character iteration with the design language. So here we get a bit of a map on where they're going to be going. One thing I've never, once again, never established in any of the stories is real geography. So we got just this idea of just some kind of city, talking about where they're going. Us now eating a nice breakfast in a little diner or something. And they're planning on to try and track down and find where those monsters that we saw in the last chapter were at, or where they came from. So get just a nice little traveling montage of them leaving, them holding hands. There's now some ideas of them just playing games with each other out on the road, such as tickling on Aurora's ears with a weed thing here, and nice little environment of just a lizard chilling out in the sun. So now I think we got a idea of what's going on here. Poor Aurora, was now still having to be an unwilling witness to that, and her just kind of just implied that she's thinking about that, because at this point in the story she still doesn't know she still doesn't know. They haven't told her what's going on, so just kind of she knows what's happening and is kind of unsure about, and is still unsure about it. And then things just get worse. With a broken bridge that just happens to be there. And they're trying to take a look and figure out what's going on. About why would Führer destroy the bridge, and there doesn't seem to be any evidence that it was Almayer who destroyed the bridge. Now, this is kind of a indication or a clue that there's a trap going on here. And so that explains why Führer reinforcements haven't just come to help out this town that we're going to meet later on that's in trouble. So they're just kind of talking about that and discussing things, and yeah, not boding well. So this was some practice done on my part with some water. You could see kind of a faint gradient in there. As well as some practice in trying to draw debris. So, like how does a broken bridge look? So just, you don't realize how little you know how something looks until you have to try and draw it. Like, wait, what does that look like? So just some fun there. So we got, of course, Aurora just carrying them across the water for Zippity Split that they both do not like. And we got just a nice real shot here of them walking in the woods as things gradually get darker. I do kind of like how you got the kind of the light rays coming through the trees and the shadow and stuff. This is a very nice panel, and I'm very happy with. See, it's dark. Serapheridae now keeping watch. They know they're in a dangerous spot. Leaving in the early mornings, and we end with a trampled crops and stuff, just to show how things aren't going good. And we see the town. Once again, a destroyed town. What does that look like? It's a lot of debris and can be very annoying to try and draw, just because of how much little detail you have to get in there with all the with just a mess. It turns out it takes a lot of work to make a mess. So we got Aurora arguing with a Allmeyer person from this destroyed town, and of course this Allmeyer person doesn't know Aurora's Aurora. It's just another Führer person, so not too happy to see another one. And then we get this guard that was just somehow in stealth mode, just popping up to help sort things out. And so, just kind of talk with Aurora a bit about what's going on, and that, yeah, they're in trouble and they can need some help. And so he's just going to take them back to the Führer camp. I say camp, but basically just where Führer is staying, and this is kind of where we've gotten indications from earlier in the story about what the Allmeyer are up to, and what they're doing is re-educating Führer and Thousand Land citizens into Allmeyer kind of doctrine and ideology. And so it gets this camp here, and we see that Führer is quite unhappy with it, not just because of what's being done to their own people, but just people in general. Führer is a very culture rich, I guess you could say, society, and so kind of culture and history is something that they actually respect a lot, even for the Thousand Lands. And so they aren't too big on anyone's really being erased. But we get some indication here of a couple of different things. We got the kids playing together and being happy. Just to, I guess, show just, kids are kids and have the capacity to make friends with anyone. But we also got some slight details here with like the creases under the eyes to kind of show that they are sleep deprived. They are also wearing green, which is the Allmeyer kind of, I guess you call it, the national color. It's not a flag and stuff. And so this is just kind of evidence of that in this Allmeyer camp, they wore their colors and went to their classes and such. So yeah, so that's kind of just some visual storytelling around with that. You get kind of this little garrison, the commander of this former re-education camp, and they're talking about stuff. We can see that boards have been placed up around windows and things. I wonder where we've seen that before. Let's down there kind of talking about things, about the monster attacks. And we get a cutaway here of the kids shouting out, running from Sarah Verge, who's playing soccer of shirts versus skins, the old way to determine teams. And so we can see that clearly Sarah Verge's on the skin side, because it's not going to be Aurora on that side. And she's not that as good as Sarah Verge at the physical stuff when she can't really use her powers. And so they score. Tyria's going to have some fun of embarrassing Sarah Verge a little bit. We get the kids kind of some celebrating, some mocking, and Tyria's during the hair of a little troll girl. So just taking care of the kids and making things nice for them. It's just some fun, small, I guess, like I said, visual storytelling throughout it. And so we get a view of kind of this place overnight. We can see kind of the shape it was in, and the Führer troops are kind of set up to defend it. And so kind of how some of this defense pattern really works is they form kind of clusters around like the perimeter of what they're defending, so that way it's easier to basically respond to intruding forces. You have backup and stuff right there to help you when you need it, as well as being able to, like, if forces come in this way, these people can move around, kind of flank and collapse on them. So just a very loose, generic defense formation. We see here Sarah Verge and Tyria making themselves some weapons that aren't firearms to be able to fight tonight, because Führer wouldn't like that. We see Aurora wondering about what's going on, and that she doesn't like being part of this lie and kind of what's going on, and I'm starting to think about kind of what comes next for them. That they can't stay with her forever, and that their life is moving on. Um, so we see different stuff. We see that this troll kid is, I guess, scared, and this guard's trying to help them. Because yeah, I mean, as scary as Führer soldiers can be, they are about the honorable fight, and there's no honor in terrorizing a little kid. So you get just some nice little visual storytelling there. Where Aurora thinks more about how this can't go on forever. This is more indication, I guess, that I was planning to end Gratz, and kind of my thoughts going on there about how do I bring this to a closure, because the ending of your story, I'd say, is your second most important part, because it's the last impression that your audience gets with it. So now we're going to set aside the pondering and go straight into some action. So we got Shrieking coming out the trees. We got Führer gearing up for a fight. A nice Tauren bull snorting we see coming out through the helmet vents there. And everyone gears up, and these things come flying at them. These fun designs. I'm still really happy with these creature designs. They're nice, creepy, very off-putting with the odd number arms and such. So we get just some fighting as these things just kind of rush and pile on them. Aurora's there to just use her size, just use her strength to make a mess of guys and destroy her weapons. A bit of her unarmed fighting training that she got coming into play here, as she takes up kicking her and punching her and whatnot, because weapons just don't last real long in her hands. Too strong, even for the weapon's own good. On the other hand, we've got Sera Verde, who's still quite well, I say weapons are quite formidable in his hands and not prone to breaking. I see does some sword work here. Tyrea's making do with her spear. Just some details here. She's got one eye closed. She's not a fan of close range battle, so that's the best she can get. Skewering these things doesn't always work, so she starts to freak out a bit, and Sera Verde said to finish the job. And he's not happy about that when they first ran into them. Probably particularly about these things in particular, about how it fell into that hole, and there's just loads of them in that dark spot with them. But yeah, that's a way far callback. So more fighting going on, and we get a new sound, kind of this a hooing sound or whatnot, and something we see kind of fly up and start to go across the moonlight, and something new is coming from above. And we got these things, these nice horrible little monsters with the two faces, kind of a blind head and a skeletal face on the chest. So we'll see a bit more right here. So kind of the way these things were designed is they were designed deliberately to fight Führer. So they're able to stay out of Führer reach by flying around. They got a little a spit. This head on the chest will spit out an acid that we can see here, and this is to mainly get around Führer armor. And so they're designed, like I said, to counter them. Let's see now. We're throwing the arm and talk about how to counter them a bit. Since Führer doesn't use range weapons because they view that as dishonorable by attacking someone out of reach, these things are meant to fly around above them where they can't reach. And to get past the Führer armor, which is incredibly thick, they just use an acid spit. Now, the acid itself isn't exactly intended to melt the armor as a whole, because it would just take too long, but to get into the eye holes and different cracks in the armor and just burn away in there. That's the intended use of it, so to blind them and destroy respiratory systems and stuff like that. So that's just how they're designed. Overall, I really like these things. I feel like, oh, they're designed for a particular purpose, and I think they do a pretty good job at that. Um, and so Sarah and so Theria's the camp is also under attack. Come on now, hold up, what's going on? Let's see if we can reload this page. I go and pause real quick. Alright, so now it's working again. Okay, so, sorry about that. So, got some kind of running around. Theria, she doesn't have a gun. She needs Sarah J help. So Sarah J using his climbing abilities, got on the roof and jump, take one out from that way. Kind of just nice stab it in the ground and then drag the sword out across it. And Theria's a little upset about flying things. But hey, he didn't know about that. So they hear that's some of the kids screaming something is trying to get in there at them. We see one of the ghouls kind of coming through the window. So Sarah is there, does a nice little tackle and stab. Gets hit by a acid spitter. So we see the Fuhrer response to how to defend against some of these flying things that spit acid, and that is to huddle up, tighten up, cover soft spots, and then just kind of try to endure the acid attacks, using the thicker parts of the armor to try and protect themselves, and not let them get in the soft gaps in the armor. So make it so that they could just fly up there and aren't very effective. So just a nice little demonstration of Fuhrer intelligence that, yeah, they are really good for fighting and stuff and will quickly adapt to situations. And so Sarah Verge is hurt. Theria's trying to help, but Sarah Verge, he's still got a ranged weapon. He's got a little nice throwing knife that he can use. And so they seek shelter inside as these things just buzz around and cause trouble. So nighttime ends, these things go flying away as the sun begins to come. We see that friendly fire is clearly a thing as some of these skeletons have been hit by acid and burned away. See that where they're held up inside. We can even see Aurora's got a pretty nasty burn there. And yeah, it's daytime. So they're kind of sitting around upset because, things have gotten hard. Aurora healed themselves up. I mean, it's pretty obvious that she's going to do that, so I didn't bother doing a page on it. So you're just trying to think what's going on. Got Sarah Verge basically kind of... I don't think I did a good job at demonstrating this, but that... coming clean to Aurora about him and Theria, because he felt bad about lying to her, and because he felt bad about lying to her, he tried to simplify, reduce the amount of problems he was causing for her by not using firearms and such, and he's ended up causing more problems. And so it's time to come clean and get the group all back together again. So yeah, it's some kind of I'm sure as to it's like Aurora, do you know what's going on here? So kind of playing around with the first time thing as they all kind of embarrassingly realize that Aurora's been able to hear them. So yeah, just a nice little embarrassing mess. And Theria upset that Aurora has been lying to them. And Aurora counting back. Wait, this isn't about me. We're not talking about me and my lies. We're talking about yours. So just a bit of a little humor and fun right there. with this awkward situation. And so, just kind of as they talk about trying to sort stuff out, and that, Sarah Verge kind of didn't think past the point about getting the truth out. That he just thought, pretty much, once again, it's like, oh, well, I can't keep lying and doing this, so just truth will come out and what happens will happen. And so we're going to find out what happens. And we kind of get to know Aurora's nature, I said Aurora's nature, but belief that's stuff for marriages and eternal bonds and things. And so kind of her religious background, how that factors into her views and how to deal with that situation. And so she was always very uncomfortable with it, but she doesn't seem, according to her, to think that that there's a real way, there's not a real way for them to get married, because there's not any more priests of the light that exist anymore, because the kingdom collapsed, and only when the kingdom of the sky collapsed and fell out of it and destroyed and all that stuff, her and Sarah Verges were the only ones to survive it. Well, and I suppose Xura, but none of those three are priests. So Tyrea brings up a very good point here, that, you're the Light's Archon, that's got to be something. So Aurora just kind of, capitulate that, this is perhaps the best that could be done right now. And so basically does a little, almost kind of like a little shotgun wedding almost, about, staying together and not splitting up. All right, and that will have to do. So, the very informal and quick wedding that they got. Not so much really humor, but just, how do we resolve this problem? And just going to put a temporary bandage on that. That's what we're going to do. And so Aurora's dealt with one problem, and now it's got to deal with another. This is where Aurora's, I guess, not so much another problem, but the mysterious stranger that's been following her for the last few chapters appears. And basically she doesn't know that she's been followed, and but this guy's clearly looking for her, so she's going to go check him out. Now, he's not allowed in the Allmeyer camp for obvious reasons. And we meet Sir Roland, who's a Allmeyer agent, or former Allmeyer agent. We could tell that because he's old, but he's also got kind of the trench coat, the black trench coat that we've seen other Allmeyer agents wear. And so we just kind of get an introduction, and that he's smart. He saw Aurora's battle and knows that she's not normal, and that maybe she, because she's not normal, can help him. And so they agree to talk. And he's basically going to need her help he needs Aurora's help to help end the war, and kind of explain that she's not going to join Allmeyer. It's like, no, it's not Allmeyer I want your help with, or in bringing victory. It's he's kind of the opinion that that this war has been a disaster for Allmeyer, and that the only thing that can really help make things better is for it to end quicker by basically Allmeyer losing. Well, he doesn't want them to lose, he does want them to survive, and he just sees that if things go on as they are, things are just going to get worse, and there's going to be no survival for Allmeyer. So basically, it's just a plan that's going to help capture a queen. That's how they're going to end the Allmeyer war. So, he gives some background as to kind of what's happened here in Allmeyer. So this is really the first time we get information on the Allmeyer war from, well, I guess you could call them kind of within. Well, not say the first time, but some further information on what's going on with Allmeyer. And kind of as he explains that Allmeyer has a population issue where humans and elves are very, very different in how they live. And how this has kind of created different issues, but different kind of cultural clashes in between them. and how there was a attempt to try and uh, ease those tensions and bring things into order, but the queen ruined that, and then started ruined that by basically ruined that by seizing power, by killing the king, seizing power, and then starting a war to cover her tracks. So it's all just been a result of, I guess, infighting within the country. Um, and so he's quite unhappy with that because, well, he does care for his kingdom, he doesn't care for what it's become. And so he wants to end this war. So just kind of some explanations on what's going on here and how, with Gratz ending, how I'm going to wrap up on the war story that's been making up in the background for the vast majority of Gratz's run. But yeah. So kind of the whole idea with kind of this character, but these last few pages and kind of this character of Sir Roland was basically it's like the old war vets and the country they fought for and risked their lives to save, and how those countries change even within their lifetime. And so it's kind of like it could be applied to any country, but if you know any World War II vets that are in your lives, kind of like as a country as today, is this what you fought for? Yes or no? And in Roland's case, the answer is no. This isn't the country he's fought for. So he's having to get back out, come out of retirement, get back out there again to try and save the country that he had dedicated his life to once again. So the try and save the country that the old man remembers. So just kind of exploration of that perspective with this character. So we get Aurora and Roland going off, and Roland's kind of explaining some stuff about how spying works for Allmeyer, and that if, in that sense, the Allmeyer government and kingdom was involved in these weapons, that their spy intel would be in the destroyed city. So gonna go and check out this invisible little city. So they kind of walk around. We see people who aren't too happy to see a Aurora Führer in town, but they're mostly just miserable. Things have been terrible here for them, and really, it's just a mess with how these things can happen. And when something's gone so terrible, what do you do? Is there even a right choice? Of course, at the same time, is there even a wrong choice? It seems like sometimes, and so just I'm kind of pondering on that. Just once again, just old things like that, and kind of Sir Roland's just further wondering about his youth, about did he make the right choices when he fought for his the kingdom and all the spy work he's done, terrible things and such he's done in service to them, and if that was the right thing to do based on how everything gets led. It's like, should I have done that, or should that have gone to someone else? But basically, ultimately, the decision of sometimes you can't always just dwell on the past and hope that things can't stay as they are. So things might be bad now, and they might get worse if you do something, but that doesn't mean that you should be afraid of trying to end the bad thing that's going on now. Basically, as they say, jumping out the frying pan and into the fire is going from a bad situation to a worse one. But it's easy to overlook that the frying pan's still hot. You can't stay in the frying pan. So you might jump out the frying pan going into the fire, but then you might be able to get out of that and go into something good. So just kind of don't be afraid of what's worse if you can't stay where you're at. You're going to have to take a chance. So get a nice little age joke there. And just more discussion about, good and evil. And kind of a old person's, kind of old Sir Roland's perspective on it. And that Aurora is really ultimately at heart a good person. And that, she's going to be making good choices because of that. So now we set aside or moving past the philosophy discussion into kind of some of the spy work. We got some coded message done here in their scrapings. Uh-oh. It's acting up again. So some coded messages going on here in the scrapings of the kind of town hall. It's now south quarter mile from here. So we got like some semblance of kind of how you can make something out here. Like we got this little triangle here. And a plus sign here. So, if we figure each corner of this represents a quarter of a mile, so we have one plus sign and one corner here, making it a quarter mile. So this is just, like I said, just some idea that looking at these scrapes, that you can interpret some kind of a code from it. That, if you don't know what it is, it would look like gibberish, but yeah, just an idea. Just some vagueness of how you can work it out backwards from the viewer ends of things. And it does not look like this is loading, so again, so I'm going to have to pause. Alright, back again. And so we get kind of this explanation as to how the Allmeyer agents that they ran back in the Thousand Lanes stuff, how she knew about Aurora, despite Sarah Verge having killed the agent Dieter, Allmeyer agent. And so got them nice walking through the trees. Let's now kind of just a look at how the story has changed, because for Spirit of Adventure, it was really about I wanted Aurora to be driving the story and making decisions and stuff more and more, and so this is just kind of a call back to back to the time before she did that, and not having to make all the hard choices herself, and just kind of reminiscing. That's now about Brewer and how she started off. So a nice little throwback to Solace and the start of this chapter. Once again, since at this point New Grass was ending, guys making nice callbacks and stuff. Or at least trying to make callbacks to stuff kind of just throughout its history. Tap into those member berries. And kind of like I say here, take a look and see how we've grown over time. So, kind of reminiscence about how Aurora has grown over the course of the story, and also likewise my own writings and such. So we have Sarah Verge and Tyria catching up on some sleep. And Aurora embarrassingly trying to wake them up, because she doesn't know what they're going to be doing. Of course, Tyria is there to embarrass Aurora a little bit more, just want some fun. And so they meet up with Roland. Sarah Verge is, of course, suspicious of him. They just hash some stuff out. We can see that they got their guns here again, so they're done trying to, I guess you could say, make things easier, the lies and such. They're done about holding back, and they're going to give their all into helping Aurora, so we can see that the guns are back. A brief explanation to catch up Sarah Verge and kind of let us know what's going to come up next. Alright, so we get kind of some history about what went on with the re-education. What's going on with the re-education camp? Allmeyer losing ground in the war. Yeah. Stuff about the development of the secret lab and secret weapons to be able to fight the Führer and their invading army. And we get to detail here that, well, the flyers and these things, I guess I'm calling them the fighters, have been keeping the Führer troops busy. The collectors have been going and hitting the Allmeyer camp. So the Allmeyer, this little secret Allmeyer lab is using Allmeyer's own people as resources to make these monsters. So it's just a nice little terrible twist on the circumstance that these people have been in, that they have no real shelter and their camp is constantly being sieged by collectors. So we see it's nighttime and the Führer is fighting with these things again, and then our heroes are waiting to set up a trap and find where the collectors are and going. See that one of them is going over the wall over there. So it's time to go and find that lab. Originally, but it sounds like there's terrible stuff going on inside the destroyed Allmeyer's city. And that, Aurora's not going to settle for just stand there and letting people get caught up. Let's now, Sir Roland absolutely would do that. He's willing to sacrifice people to achieve the mission plans, kind of that cold agent stuff coming out. So we see one of the collectors had found a hidey hole and is digging in to get the people out, but Aurora's there. Aurora's there to save them, dragging them back out and throwing him, using her strength to kind of beat him up. We got their tongue thing coming out again. Gosh darn it. The nice little grabby tongue, but Sarah Verge's there to avoid and cut the tongue. So we got a nice little mess there, and Allmeyer's there. A nice little mess here from the tongue, and Tyria's there. Kind of upset that Sarah Verge is not warning her until after it's already become an issue. So just some fun as this thing starts charging at Tyria. She starts to freak out. So goes in, takes out her little Allmeyer toy that she grabbed back in the last chapter from that lab. It's now lights the fuse and throws one of the Allmeyer grenades at it, which it promptly chomps on it and then explodes inside. I mean, it's a old but goodie. If you got something that likes to eat stuff, make it eat explosive. It's fun. I have no real justification on why it decided to eat that. Let's just have some fun. And so we see the one that Aurora's been fighting. Let's see now, is she's not killing it, but she is damaging it quite a bit to make it try and run away. So that way she can follow it, which it finally gets the clue and starts to run. So her speeding up the plan. So see Sir Roland come after them. We're trying to find them, avoiding the grabby tongues as another one comes out at him. And he quickly draws his gun, fires some rounds into it, which make it angry. And it's there to chomp down on him, but Aurora, she's already got one on the run, so she doesn't need another one, so she just quickly carves that collector in half. So they get her up, get Roland up, and move on to follow the one that's running. See, kind of scoots along. They find Tyria and Sarah Verge meet back up with Aurora and Roland as they track it. Tyria giving her a thumbs up. Tyria's much more, I guess, has a lot more expression and more animated than Sarah Verge is. So just nice little details done about just kind of the idle, I don't call it idle behaviors, but little communications there. So follow, leave the town into the woods. and into the hole, into the ground it goes. So it looks like they found the secret lab. So they're talking about the kind of secret lab start to go down. We see that this whole kind of, we got the scratches and the dirt of the things crawling down in there. And then we enter the lab and we can kind of see the trail marks of the dirt and the mud that the creatures have been bringing in as they go into their pens. And now we get a special little update. So this is when Gratz reached 10 years old, and so we got a drawing I did, kind of recreating the old colored pencils and just the pencil and colored pencils, Corella Twistables I had when I started Gratz. This drawing was done in Photoshop, but just recreating those tools. And so this is kind of a rough approximation of when I first drew Vancore way back 10 years ago, that original Vancore drawing. This was the type of desk I was sitting at, and the direction we're looking at here, there was a wall that we would be looking through right now. But yeah, so they're just kind of a rough approximation, like I said, like wearing my green shirt and brown pants and stuff, my cargo pants at the time, and didn't have a beard and stuff there, and shaggy hair. I still had that, but it wasn't as long or as shaggy then. And we get just a nice little montage of how stuff has changed over the years, and with how the drawings originally started looking at as. And kind of the funny thing with this is, for these first few chapters, or books of Gratz, they weren't even a year long, so I had to actually grab multiple pictures from within the same year, because you would have the book be within the same year. So if I did one picture from each year, I would be skipping some of the books. But yeah, so we got those original, like I said, pencil and Corella Twistable drawings. Then my first few Photoshop drawings that I did with them. Then the first adventure story, Gratz Adventures, that we got going on here, kind of drawings of these characters. And then we got Solace, the first time Aurora dressed up and was in the appearance from the extra gallery. That drawing I did that later became Aurora. And we got Absolution, how they looked in Absolution, and then Exaltation. And the funny, at the end of the Solace trilogy, this was from that very last page in there. And the funny thing is that at the time of drawing all these, I thought my art, I guess you could say, was getting pretty good. It was pretty decent. And I look back and just see how much I have changed over the years. And so I suppose there's a couple things to look at, ways to look at that. Number one, your art is never as good as you think it is. And you can always get better. And number two is that you will get better. Just stick with it. Keep practicing. And you'll get better over time. So yeah, so just some fun there. We've got Start of Spirit of Adventure. It's at this point that I'm able to swap to the every year type thing. So that at this point, year 2, Taria is introduced. Then we have them in the Thousand Lands. Then we have them over here in Führer. Then kind of setting off for the Allmeyer stuff. This is after the Sand place, with kind of their designs, and then their most recent designs for the final 2 books of Gratz, and just how they've changed over time, and then a drawing about how I have changed over time, where I now have a old wooden desk that I'm able to sit at. I got a far more comfy chair because I'm there longer. I now work with a laptop and monitor, and this is the actual kind of like style done with the Bamboo Create tool I use. So it's these colors. Now I got a beard and longer hair and such for the drawings. Still still dressed like a slub. T-shirts, and these are actually typically I wear some flannel pajama pants because I'm sitting for so long. I want something comfy. But yeah, so just kind of how things have changed over the years, both in art and in myself. So yeah, just nice little scrolly montage of that. But yeah, so it's been quite the experience looking back at it. So now we're back in our story. We got kind of the holding pens for the monster, the collections depositories for the victims, and then an ambush waiting for Tyria, for them, as we have Almar agents that have been operating in this facility there to defend it. Of course, Sheriff Verge is ready to go in with some Max Payne gun fu to protect Aurora. Gets one of them, and Aurora is able to block the shots, making her little light walls, and then this agent escapes. And we find that that this place is bigger than it looks. And so they go down deeper into the base. So we've got just kind of some indications of what this thing looks like. It's held up with all these pillars, and they got these wooden walls set up. And so that way they can construct rooms the size they need them, because these pillars are evenly placed. And I got the nice little traps set up. We got way into ambush, but Aurora catches him, just stabs through the wall and gets him. But there's another guy firing down, and this is going to quickly turn into a slog, a mess, as they have to try and clear out this winding corridor and maze-like understructure of baddies. But Aurora, thankfully, is able to just tear through walls, and so able to quickly advance through unseen directions and get guys. So just some fun using kind of her unique way of being able to fight. So we hear kind of her doing her stuff, and it's these three move around. And Roland is there helping to cover and protect them, and more agents come out. So, got these agents aren't slouches either. Some fights, we got some tingling up here. Tyria firing a gun. Everyone kind of squares up for their fights, and we get kind of not so much the big reveal, but something that's been hinted at for a while now. And that is that Roland is missing a hand, and so he's got this nice brace on his arm with kind of a metal tip on it that he's used to parry aside kind of that dagger and deploy a wrist blade that he has built into that to catch his opponent off guard and fight back. So just a fun little thing, or I guess detail of that despite losing a hand, he went to modify some of his tools so that way he can create new combat avenues for himself. So we got Sarah Verge, doing an ear pull and stabbing a guy through here, such as just different ways of fighting that people have for fighting. So now transfer that, draw a gun, block with another gun, and then don't damage my gun. Tyria upset at Sarah Verge, the other guy, for hitting the gun, or using the gun as a shield. Was the gun damaged? Who's in trouble? So just a nice little bit of humor there as we transfer from Sarah Verge to Tyria. As she cycles around, shoots one guy, ducks down, and she cycles out another one. As Sarah Verge intercepts the one she misses, or is unable to shoot, she fires again, and they square up. A nice fun little action page here. As Tyria, in this case, loads to end another round, and Sarah Verge is ready for more fights. So just kind of how they work together. And so Aurora finally catches up with them. Roland gonna be old and sore in the morning, and they find the Dr. Ricketts, I think this guy was called, um, that was responsible for creating the monsters. That he's back, and Aurora found him, and so this time instead of handing him over to Allmeyer, they're going to hand him over to Führer. So let's see, the handout's gone off, and Aurora's still wondering what's going to happen with those people and how that, you know, handing off the doctor and stopping the monster attacks has helped, but is it going to be enough to help all the Allmeyer people and such? And how Servedra is basically reminding her that you fixing the little things can help lead to changes and fix big things. So it's more important to do little good things than to do big good things. And so Aurora's going to help Roland with a plan, or with his plan, but also would like his help with her plan. So kind of an indication going on into this last chapter here of that something's going to happen. So we find kind of this chasm here, and we get just a nice little sound effect and light indicating that Aurora's up to something, and a nice big explosion causes a cave-in this little chasm. And this was basically Roland's plan, was to stop the escape route for the Queen, so that way she wouldn't be able to run away and would have to stay in the capital city, and thus force kind of a confrontation to end the war, one way or another. And we also get the indication here that it's Aurora's plan to have Roland help them bring down that old sage that's caused Aurora so much problem and been the source of a fair amount of other different issues throughout the kingdoms. And so, kind of, like I said, the indication that Aurora's going to go, well, it's an indication about, Gratz is ending, and it's going to end with Aurora going on the offensive this time, and bringing the sage down instead of waiting for one of his traps to be sprung on her. So she's going to take the initiative now. So we see kind of the consequences of the fallout from destroying that passage. We got the Thousand Lands golems breaking down the gate, and here's a little detail. But we see now a lot more elf soldiers in Allmeyer, and that's because that a lot of the elves were brought back into the deeper parts of Allmeyer when the war broke out, and so a lot of the humans have been put on the front lines and such. But now in this, because Führer and Thousand Lands have pushed so far in, they're needing to use more elf soldiers. And so that's just kind of some, visual stuff that ties into the background of what's been going on in Allmeyer. We see Führer storming the city. Führer and Thousand Lands fighting side by side, holding true to the truce, and everyone tramples over the Allmeyer flag as the Queen dies. It's strongly implied, and it is, I'm going to confirm that it was suicide here, that rather than be captured, she poisoned herself. And to escape, basically, justice from Führer and Thousand Lands. All right. One last battle. So we finally come here. We're at the final chapter of Gratz. So I guess let's get into it. Let's see this final chapter. So kind of got here is we got a central city, people out celebrating the recent Thousand Land and Führer victory over Allmeyer. We got Allmeyer being scared about what's going to happen next. And just kind of a chaotic environment that's happening here. And so, trying to figure out what Allmeyer is going to do, trying to figure out what Führer is going to do. And kind of what's going to happen is there's going to be an influx of people coming from the victor sites coming in to join in the celebration. And so we kind of see that they're going with Thousand Lands and Führer. Let's see now. And so the city's about to get packed and crowded, which is kind of what they're going to end up wanting for their trap. Alright, so we got a whole bunch of trolls coming in. And they're kind of talking about what they're planning and what they're going to do and how the Sage likes to use innocent people against Aurora. This is something that we've seen before. And we've seen how kind of Sir Verge's perspective on it is that they've faced a lot of trials in battles, and that they've always come out on top, and that they're going to find a way through this, and that they always have. And once again, here's the way. They found their way, or rather, the way out has found them. So we get to see this captain guy, first introduced way back in Dark Jungle, and again seen again in the Thieves of Old Kingdom chapters. Something kind of funny about him is this is the first time we actually get his name, because I had never named him before, and me being the creative dead end that I am, his name is just Captain with the letters scrambled up and some stuff changed. So I think it's like CAPTO, and I swapped out the N for an A, and that's about it. So Ota is really just a scramble. It's just a partial scramblization of Captain. It's just kind of talking to them about what's going on, and he's going to invite them to the Thousand Land party because they had to help him out so much. And so Aurora's going to also, while he's in a good mood, get his help with something else, and kind of what she's going to. So she's here explaining kind of what's going on about how she's a Archon of the Light. There's this sage and all this other kind of giving him the rundown on what's going to happen. And how she needs his help. And so he's, of course, a little hesitant about that because, someone comes up and telling you, hey, guess what, I'm chosen by the light for something. You're probably going to think, oh, this is a schizoid. I'm dealing with a crazy person here. Well, but if that crazy person then pops out golden wings like that, guess what? Either you're just as crazy as they are, or it's all true. So I do like this picture. And so he's realizing that the crazy story is real. And then he's putting it together that there was Aurora who destroyed the Allmeyer invasion fleet way back at Tides of Fury storyline. And that she has been involved in helping Allmeyer and helping Thousand Lands and defend themselves against Allmeyer from the very beginning. And so he thinks about it and yep, he's in. He's going to help. So they got help from him to deal with how they're going to get Thousand Lands people involved in their trap against the Old Sage. And so they're going on and see what will happen over in the Führer side of things. So in the Führer side of things, we got them coming through. We can once again see this gate is carved open from where the Führer King came through and gave it a nice solid hit with a sword, so that's just a fun little recurring detail in there. And who should Aurora run into but Exura? So this is the first time that they've met since the Enter the Ring chapter, and during that chapter, Aurora forgave Exura, and now's the time to really put that to the test. And so, they're kind of talking out that Exura is still a little shy, because even though Aurora's forgiven her, still a little awkward. They didn't really meet. This is the first time they've met since that letter at the end of that chapter. And so they're just kind of talking back and forth, a little awkward about what they're going to do around with each other, where there's no hard feelings in between them anymore, but, it's just awkward. It's not good feelings. And Aurora's it's kind of dawned on her about that Exura can help her. And so we got here to say, kind of talk about what happened back at the Führer capital. Aurora's explaining to Exura that they're going to try and stop this old guy. Well, kind of. and is warning Xur to be careful. But Xur has decided, no, I'm going to help you. That you need help, and I want to help. So kind of some detail we see going on here in this page, and that happens over the course of this. We got it very on the line, well, not the line, equally tilted here, just to old film trick to show how stuff is unsteady or uneven. We see that again going on here. Now things straighten out as Aurora kind of explains what's going on, and then we get a nice little zoom in on Xur seeing what she can do to help. And we got again another tilt here, but it's done in such a way to make Xur look taller, that she's rising to the occasion. So just a little rare, I guess, artistic imagery across the whole page that I did with this one that I'm just highlighting. And so we got going here about Xur talking about her kind of some stuff from her perspective about how she's a copy of Aurora, and kind of what does that mean, but how her life has been, and how ultimately she's deciding she needs to be a little less Xur and more Aurora. So she needs to follow Aurora's example and be a little and be helping others and listen out, and to live a life worth living. Help others and to do good things. So we got that going on about how even her as a copy, it's okay to be more like the original. It's not going to ruin. So we got Aurora taking one last thought or think before the plan kicks off, and if they're doing the right thing. And Taria and Sarah Verge are there to back her up. And now the plan is set. They're going to go off. This is actually the last sunset I've drawn in the comic. And so it will be dark and won't get light until the end of the story now, from this point on. So the first person to show up is Roland, who he's made contact with his people. Now we got the captain, and he's bringing the pygmy with him to help Aurora. We got Xura, and she's got her adoptive father here, who wants to get some revenge on this. He says the cowards who took one of his daughters. So took his original daughter and tried to hurt Xur, his adoptive one. So just a nice little setup showing everyone in here before we set off now for the next adventure. Now, it should be noted that originally at this point, the next page was going to be explaining the plan. But I ended up scrapping that so that way I could deal with what the plan is going to be revealed later on into the story. So that's just a fun note of how stuff has changed. So we got the Troll, the Thousand Land Festival of the Fire of Life, with a lot of inspiration coming from the Polynesian fire dancers as they light up the torches and do a performance. And we got Aurora having a bit of a celebration. I'm wearing, I think it's called the Leilu or something like that. That's a symbol as a friend. So that way she's welcomed there. And we got Sarah Verge showing he can't dance. But them also having some fun. Likewise, we see Taria wearing the Leilu because she's a friend, but Sarah Verge doesn't have one because he doesn't need one because he's a troll. So they think he's just part of Thousand Lands. Let's now. So kind of a joke about his drinking and stuff here. But yeah, no, I do kind of like these pages. And I think I haven't done too many drawings of kind of Aurora or dancing or whatnot. Kind of, something with a lot of movements and things. And so I think these pages actually came out pretty well to show that. So it's just a fun little thing that I did enjoy. So now we get kind of the ceremony of the Thousand Lands and kind of them paying respects to the fallen. We got a little story here about where it comes from and kind of the history and how this tradition has evolved over time into what it is now. The lighting of a big bonfire to show the departed that everyone's safe. So that's just, I guess, a fun little bit of world building with the Thousand Lands, which didn't get as much as Fear did. because I wasn't quite as good at natural world building or through storytelling as I am now. At least I'm a little bit better. So just how I've improved over time. And so this is just kind of a nice little comparison of that. And so we have the first part of the plan done. We have Aurora meeting with Roland and seeing if anything's gone on, and nothing has happened yet. And we get Roland telling Aurora to come here and look like they're spending some time talking. So we get this nice pan out, wide shot of. It looks like that they're whispering about something, but we can't know what it is. And that now they depart again. So this is just to try and kind of give them the perspective of what it looks like if someone is watching them. It looks very suspicious. And so to try and lure out a spy that something's happening that they don't want people to know about. So we got kind of the arena going on here, or the arena show, as Xura wins her match. Everyone cheers. We got a nice little joke about Aurora's costume from back in that Enter the Ring chapter. So just some fun with that. And we kind of got this thing on here about how if in the Thousand Lands, Aurora and Tyria had to wear the Leilu so people recognized them, or recognized them as friends. Here they just tie them together. So that way it's like, yeah, he's her friend, just keep him in reach, don't let him loose. So just a little fun difference going on there. Now we got the Widow dance here. This was something that my dad, he reads the comics, but this was a page he actually asked me about where the idea came from, and there's no real place it really came from. It's mainly just a dance to kind of celebrate that, kind of as I explained here, of the widows that get left behind, that the husbands and later is extended to the sons who have been lost in the war, that they've left a family behind, and that family's still going to mourn them. And so this is a dance essentially to be performed kind of like with their spirit as a final dance before they depart. And you see kind of here of the hands being lifted up, kind of saying goodbye to them and let them leave for the afterlife. So a nice, very touching panel. I can't remember when I came up with the idea for the widow dance, but it's here now, and I think it's perhaps one of the nicer, but best solemn moments throughout the entire Gratz series. And so, yeah, so just get a nice little thing with that. I guess take a quick look down here at the comments. And yeah, I mean, and it seems like people responded pretty well to it. Let's see now. So now we've had the perspective of Aurora doing her part of the plan. Now we go to Tyria and Sarah Verge's part of the plan, and Aurora, Tyria flirting with Sarah Verge as they untie and got to go about the plan, get ready for the action, and Sarah Verge's kind of talking about that, with this all done, maybe it's time that we should settle down and quit adventuring. And like I said, at this point, let's see now, I was obviously planning to end Gratz, but kind of tying more into this, I guess you could say, the notion of why it's ending through the story, that Sarah Verge and Tyria can't keep running around and having ventures. They need to move on and build a life together. And so this is kind of Sarah Verge taking a look at that and thinking about kind of what comes next. And then I'm promptly skipping over it back to the fight at hand, which Tyria's slightly annoyed at. It's like, no, hold on, go back. I want to talk more about me and you. What do you mean, settle down? It's a bit of fun with that. So we come here and we got a problem with the plan for Aurora meeting with with Roland again. They talk back and forth, and then explained that there's some complications that Sarah Verger is having some issues. So Roland takes them over there to look at some of the equipment before he promptly attacks Aurora. So a nice throat slash here with his hidden blade, followed up by a good stab. He needs to make sure that she's down. And we see that it wasn't Aurora, it was Morphe in disguise, as he kind of mocks her a bit. And we get a slight detail that's been going on through this whole chapter. That the plan was to always catch Morphe, who, in case she impersonated one, then they had kind of a secret greeting that they were often doing. And that greeting was the left hand on the hip. That every time the characters first meet each other, they have that left hand on the hip. And this is kind of a secret symbol, so they know that that they aren't Morphe. And she didn't catch on to that, so they're able to get her. And we also have this nice little detail here about this finger blade that she's wearing. At the time that I finished the last major encounter in between the Old Sage, his group, and Aurora, he mentioned upgrades. And the plan at that time was I wasn't going to end Graz. I still had, I was going to keep the story going, but I was going to upgrade all the characters and such. Well, within the next chapter, that changed, and I decided no, Graz needed to end, but I still had this upgrade thing I needed to deal with. So this is one of the results of that plan was her dagger was going to be replaced with a much more easily concealed and even morph along with her finger blade ring. So we still see like the jewel on the dagger that would hold the blood and then the blade to draw it. But yeah, so that's just kind of the changes that we've seen here and why this thing is here. So just a fun little insight there. Now we've got the meeting going on again, and between Aurora and Sir Roland, and we see the left hand's on the hips. All right, going on here, and he point out that he just got the elf. And he kind of highlights that the change in weaponry going on here, and that things might be different, that they are experiencing a slight hiccup in their plan because the Old Sage and his group of people aren't exactly how they had assumed they were going to be. So that means that they need to be careful. And so as Aurora gets ready to warn people, they get attacked. And it's time to get this plane rolling. As Aurora radiates the light and fires up a nice little light volley, creating this nice explosion up here to let everyone know that the plan is on. The game is the trap is sprung. All right. So a nice little interesting detail is this is actually page 1000 of Spirit of Adventure. So I figured that, that's a good point that I have to really get that plan started kicking off. So that worked out very nicely. So the trap is sprung. And so you have all the people that are hiding in the Almire city running out, trying to escape it. As Aurora gets into a fight with Sting here, who we get a brief glimpse here that we can see his legs are a little different. We'll probably get a better view of that later. A nice fun little explosion as he jumps back out of the portal during the portal game him and Ironjaw have done before against her. That works pretty well. And she's there too, and she's ready for this time, so she's able to stop getting the back shot. And we cut away to Sarah Verger and Tyria getting ready for their part of the plan, which is to hang in the alley and wait for Aurora to maneuver herself and Sting to where the portal is nearby. And then portal opens. We can even see Sting's shadow coming through on the ground. So to just kind of give an idea of the perspective of this, is he would be jumping off from like a roof position or something like that. And so the portal would be a bit more horizontal, and so we're looking at the ground here. It's a little difficult to try and draw and track these things in the head, but that's kind of what we're looking at with this. So he's going to dive through that portal and have more momentum being carried through as he flies at Aurora for the attack. And so they go for their plan. And as we see here, the portal was a little more horizontal. I guess it was diagonal as they jump through the other side of the other, I guess, half of the portal. that Sting went through. So he would enter through this side and come out facing Aurora. They entered through, again, kind of this side, but they come out let's now near Ironjaw. And so this is how they were able to find Ironjaw this time, instead of stumbling upon him by luck last time. So they're able to catch him off guard and immediately stop his portal support for Sting. And we can even see that as this portal closes up, we can see a bit of Aurora wings through it. Sarah Verde tries to take a quick slash at Ironjaw and misses, and Ironjaw and Sarah Verde, they both know what's up, and they're at it. They're ready to start fighting again. Interestingly, Ironjaw did not get any upgrades, but he wasn't ever really damaged in the fight, so he didn't really need the upgrades. So he's the only member to not have gone through an upgrade process for this final battle. But I do like this pose. And kind of the color change across the onomatopoeia there. And so we cut to Sting and Aurora fighting. Let's see now, and she's kind of taunting, but just providing some narrative a bit for us audience that the plan has been foiled of theirs and that things aren't quite going how they want. And we see here then as the debris and smoke is all kicked up from Aurora's attacks, someone approaches. We see Xura approaching, who she takes a quick hit on Sting that goes to bring him down. And before he can respond, Turok is there, ready to finish him off, but doesn't quite get it, just instead inflicts some pretty heavy damage on him as he tries to escape and starts to sustain some pretty nasty injury. So now we cut to Ota here, the captain, and the Pygmies. They're out in the woods looking for where the control elf is, because they know that the control elf is probably going to be going for 1,000 lands, because those people don't wear as much armor, and so that it'd be easier to get with the control arrows. And so we kind of see here that because she uses and we can see a group of people hiding over here, and the arrow comes in, and he blocks it with his shield. Right? And so he knows that she uses control's arrow, so he's got this big old huge masked shield that he's using to try and cover himself with. And we can also see that he's got a bonk stick, which will come into play here pretty quickly. And so, calls her out that they know what's up, and she's a little annoyed that he has a shield and is able to counteract her. Let's now kind of pieces together that Aurora's recruited him. We can see changes in her bow as well. It's got this nice little feather design. And we can also see that she now has a bracelet with the same kind of feathers on it. So that's just some slight changes there for her upgrades. And which will become more apparent later on what they do. But they gear up. He's a captain, so he tried to offer a surrender chance, but it wasn't going to work. And so it's like, all right, time to go with the plan. So we cut away to Aurora, to Sarah Verde fighting Ironjaw, evading a slash there, dodging a counter stab here, and Sarah Verde, he has guns on him this time, so he's not just fighting with a knife. So he quickly draws a gun, and we get this nice little portal loop shot here that Ironjaw was ready for that and opened up a portal right in front of him, so that if Sarah Verde was too quick, he would have shot himself in the back of the head. So the only time in which that can actually happen. So kind of tie into a bit of the title of her Can't Be Too Quick in this game of you have to be fast, but you can't be too quick. Otherwise, you'll make a mistake. And so we got some more fighting going on here between them. Ironjaw digging his claw into the ground through, I think it looks like this was a failed slash, but then transitioning that into a kick, and then swerving around to avoid Sarah Verde's sword. As they charge and take a slash at each other, and they hit each other both this time. In other words, both of them foregoing defense to get a hit on their opponent. So just an example of how similar Ironjaw and Sarah Verde are to each other. And they're both just incredibly quick and tenacious in their fighting. And so just some fun choreography in between them. I do like Sarah Verde and Ironjaw's fights. I think they're very, very fun to do. There's very little in terms of particle effects or lasers and such with them. It's just a very much kind of a slashing and a momentum close quarters battle. So they're fun. I like them. So we got let's now Sting trying to escape, but Aurora's there to stop him. Blows up the house he's trying to escape from, so he can't zip away. Falls to the ground, and Turok and Exura go to finish him. But Aurora stops him and saves him from the Dark Finger trap of the Old Sage. It looks like, I did a bit of a mistake here, and I'm missing the fingers, especially this one. I'm kind of their part down here. I think I did actually draw those, but I forgot to turn that layer on when I was doing the final picture for it. So just a fun little note about the mistakes there. And we see the Old Sage come out of shadow. He's gotten quite a tan, and we can see that his arm is working again. And so he's gone through a bit of upgrades himself. We can see that this whole time Sting was bluffing. And so Sting zips away, and Aurora lets Exura and Turok go after Sting. And so they go off to fight while she squares off with Old Sage. So in other words, she's going to try and keep the Old Sage occupied so he can't interfere with the weaker fighters and take them out. So we cut back to the captain, who's having to bonk his Thousand Land citizens. Let's now knock them out and stuff like that to keep them from overpowering him or swarming him. And he's holding out as long as he can while the pygmy radiates a spell and unleashes a dirt thing, which we'll see in the next panel here. As we see, he's made the ground into kind of quick, goopy mud, trapping all the Thousand Land people in it that she had been controlling. So now she has to actually try and catch the captain. So she radiates a arrow, and then we see the modification on her weapon as she tilts her bow, and the arrow swerves and impels him in the leg. So he's been now stuck with a control arrow. So I guess kind of explaining a bit about what her idea was, and some changes made to her. We could kind of see it right here, but she's got a scar on her from where Tyria cut deep into her with Sarah Verde's sword during their fight. We see that her bow now uses this magic string, and as she draws it, it forms an arrow. You can see a bit of that right there, kind of similar to Ironjaw's portal magic. But instead it just deploys an arrow, so that way she doesn't have to carry a quiver with her or anything like that. And then, of course, tilting the bow allows her to control it so she can steer the arrow around corners, or in this case, shields, and hit targets. So, kind of a nice little change there. So now we come back to Sarah Verde and Ironjaw. Sarah Verde throws his dagger this time, and Ironjaw's there to is quickly able to deploy a portal. Sarah Verde, expecting that, avoids his own dagger coming at him, and he catches it as Wiz passes, and he radiates himself up again to fight. So again, just a fun little choreographed thing about how they work off each other in battle that I just really enjoy. So, see some stabs, some slashes, some pivots, going on in between them as they quickly then have swap positions. So like this whole little exchange here kind of the idea behind it is it was just super, super quick. They just rushed at each other, spun, and then are skidding away from each other to both put distance between them. So to just kind of give the idea that their fights are very quick, snappy, and aggressive. So we come over here to how Xura and Tirok are doing. And we see that they're taking a long-range fire from Sting here. So Tirok taunts him a bit. That's now that he's not a skilled fighter. So Sting laughs about that. It's like, yeah, you only say that because you're losing. To which Tirok catches the blade. So it says, no skill. So Sting starts to pull in the dagger, the dart. Tirok goes zipping along and can hold on long enough to Sting to basically pull Tirok in close to him. And Tirok just misses as Sting dodges away to avoid getting hit, to avoid that attack. So kind of, I guess, a bit of a rough explanation as to what goes on is how the way how Sting's daggers work is they defy the equal and opposite reaction principle of physics. So he's able to apply force only in one direction, but not the opposite direction. So this is why his dagger can stick into a piece of wood and pull himself towards it, because he's only applying the force needed, or the directional force needed to pull him in that direction. But there's no force being applied to pull whatever the dagger is impelled into towards Sting. So that's just kind of a rough explanation on how the magic physics-breaking weapon works. Yeah, no, there is an actual method to it on how it behaves. I'm not entirely just making it up. I mean, I am making it up, but I'm following a set of made-up rules. So we move on. We can see here that the pygmies having to fight the captain who's being controlled by the arrow, much to Aurora. Gosh, I can't remember this person's name. Now, it was basically a misspelling. It derived from Enamor. But the control elf, to which she's taunting him. We get a nice little rock magic here as Oda as the pygmy throws a rock at the patrol captain, creates this big puffy smoke screen from it. To which, in the confusion of the smoke, the pygmy's quickly prone to take out that arrow. And so we see the rapid fire going on of the infinite arrows from the elf, and they just kind of bombard the area, ring it down. We hear some of them getting stuck in the shield. And we see them kind of working together as the captain. He's ready to go. He's got his shield up and is covering the pygmy while the pygmy casts a spell. And so we kind of see with the result of that spell. So we hear a rumble, and a golem that was hidden in the nearby trees under the dirt rises up. And we kind of see that the whole point of using the golem, nice little squish here. But the whole point of the golem is that the control elf can't stick an arrow into it because he's made of stone. So she has no way to stop it. So all she could do is try and fail to run away from it. And so with her dead, all the people, the control magic wears off on them. And they're back to their senses. A little sore and stuck in mud, but they're doing okay. To which the Owaka, that's what I called him, Uwaka, wasn't too happy with the elf and sends her away with a big old kick, as we see going on here. And now Uwaka is happy. Oh, and I suppose, you might be wondering, well, how did they have a golem near where she was? That's just kind of happenstance. Answer is yes, it is happenstance. There's just a line here that kind of explains that away, that that throughout this whole area they stashed golems in the ground so that way wherever they encountered her, they could deploy the nearest one and get her. So, yep, I know it's only one line that justifies how that happens, but yeah, that's just it. So just kind of some fun as we saw their weakness, a weakness here paired up where the control elf couldn't stop a stone golem. And so we come here to Sting, where we finally get a good look at his legs. So back in the Eruption chapter, we see his legs got cut off by Aurora, and so we see that they have been replaced with these metal legs that allow him to run really fast and run up and down walls, as we see here. Once again, this was going to be used later on in the stories for more fights and stuff with him running and jumping from walls and such, but because the chapter is ending, and the whole series is ending, we don't really get that much use out of it aside from right here. So just a fun little thing that was lost, but we get kind of this idea of how he just strings this magic cord that could go nearly basically an infinite distance, just all around the streets. And he's going to send Tirok on a ride. As he gets yanked away and starts to get dragged by the dart. And he squares up to fight Exura on her own, who she's not going to go down without a fight. She's ready. So her and Sting get in a fight. Sting only has one weapon he can use because the other one is tied up with Tirok, and so he's got just the one he can use. And so he's trying to avoid her sword, avoid her axe. He's brought his dart back and gets a quick slash onto her, as we see through her cheek here, as he zips up, and that just puts her into a frenzy. She's ready to fight. She's not going down, and so she's just slash, just rapidly going at him with a nice little flurry of blows here, as any good dual wielding berserker should be able to do. You must have your flurry skill. We got a nice little title here, I like this one, Exura of the Sky, as Sting hops up there and taunts her a bit. Us now that basically says, also says how much, no matter how much fear or fury you bring, you can't hit me. And that's where we get this nice little one line from her that Exura's not actually from Führer. She's not Führer, so she throws an axe and catches him by surprise. So this kind of ties into that, well, Führer people don't use ranged weapons because they consider it dishonorable to attack someone who can't hit you back. She's not Führer, ultimately. And so she's willing to, use some ranged weapons. So she throws her axe and tags him in the head and drops him that way. So she goes looking for Tirok to make sure he's safe. And well, he's not exactly safe, but he's still alive. He comes out of the house all beaten up. Give him a nice little thumbs up. She's a little sad and upset at him. And then just really highlighted, in case it wasn't apparent back from that Enter the Ring chapter, that he does consider her an adoptive daughter, and that he's willing to endure a lot of pain and suffering for his kid. And so just kind of, I guess, a nice little moment here that Exura, who is just a copy of Aurora, now has a real father figure in her life, and when I say father figure, a real father in her life and someone to call family. And so just kind of things nicely growing for her. So we come here now to finish up the fight between Sera Verde and Ironjaw. See, they're back and forth continuing. As they slash, block, and break away again. To which Sera Verde then tries to do a surprise draw. He drops his sword. This is actually important because that's his longer reaching blade. Whips out the gun. And this page is taking a long time to load, so I'm going to be back in a minute. Alright, and we're back. Sorry about that. So Sera Verde draws his gun in a surprise draw. Ironjaw is slightly caught off guard, but quickly deploys the portal. And we get a nice the portal in which we can see Sera Verde's head through it. We get a nice gunshots. Boom, boom. And we now take a look at the perspective thing, and we see that Ironjaw had been shot. We can see through the portal here that's Sarah Verge's head, but somehow he's been shot without the portal. So Ironjaw is, of course, surprised by this. We pan out and we see that Sarah Verge is here aiming a gun at this portal here and another portal behind him. So just from perspective, you enter here, come out here. All right, that's the direction things are going. And we can kind of see that further highlighted by Sarah Verge's gun here. But that also means that you got the other side of the portal here and here. And as we slide out further, we see the vapor trail from the outside, from what would be this side of the portal behind Sarah Verge, that we can see Ironjaw through, because that's the side that faces him. And we come up and we see two holes in the window where Tyrea was there. That over the course of the fight, that every time Sarah Verge drew his gun or threw his knife, he was testing to make sure that Ironjaw would quickly deploy his portal, which he did, and in a pretty consistent manner. So that way, Tyrea would know that when he deployed his portal, she would be able to shoot Ironjaw through it. So, of course, Ironjaw, being a portal, the use of portals, his defeat had to come through his greatest strength being used against him. And that's what we've seen happen right here, is that he was defeated because of the portal. I said because of the portal, but because of Sarah Verge and Tyrea's teamwork and using his own portals against him. Not only to get to him for the fight, but then to ultimately defeat him. So, since Ironjaw has been such a major character since the beginning of Spirit of Adventure, it felt right to send him off with a better kind of goodbye than what the other characters got. So, see him laying down here and just, appreciating the fight. That this was a good way to go out and get some kind of detail about what happened to him in the past. That as a creature of magic, he looked like a monster to other people, and that they tried to kill him, and that these scars and his missing on his eyes and his missing hand were the results of an attack from a mob, and how the old guy saved him, and in gratitude he committed to serving the old sage guy. But then, kind of with that, basically he's done, and he's like tells Sarah Verge to do a good job at taking care of his own pack. Who Sarah Verge's pack is Aurora and Tyrea, and so kind of that it's their responsibility. In some respects, kind of once again marrying Sarah Verge in another really strong way of it's our responsibility to protect the others, and so we got just this nice goodbye for him. And so we come here now to what's going to be the next phase of the plan. As Roland is waiting here with a cannon, and we've got the troll captain and the pygmy reporting in. We got Xura coming here and reporting in that Turok's got getting patched up, and Tyrea coming here that finding that everyone's good, everyone's safe. And she goes and sets off the cannon that she's been really excited for. Again, this is just one of those pictures. I like it. I like this picture. It's just, I think, a very fun picture. I like the shockwave and blowing her hair and such. So yeah, just something I like. And so, with the cannon going off, we cut here to the kind of just the long standoff in between Aurora and the old sage. And Aurora unveils that things are different this time, and we get kind of the details as to everyone's plan. That Roland was responsible for spreading word among the Almire citizens that there's going to be a counteroffensive, so that way all the Almire citizens would escape the city. Xura and Turok were going to push to have the Führer celebration held outside the city and draw the Führer crowds there. And likewise, the Troll Captain and the Pygmy were going to get the Thousand Lands celebration held outside the city as well. And so finding all this is that the city's been completely emptied of citizens. No one is in it. And then now we also see here kind of the comparisons that were done with the matchups about how using a spy to find a spy. So someone who's able to set traps and know how to trick people. And then the ability to resist arrows, so a big old shield and a stone golem. And to deal with the control elf. And then to deal with sting, tough and skilled warriors for him. So people that were able to take a beating and were tricky in battle. And then to be able to defeat Ironjaw, they needed people who were clever at combat. So that'd be Teria and Serverge, both of who can think on their feet and come up with plans to trap opponents in. And we kind of see here the ultimate line that this isn't a Sage's trap, it's Aurora's trap. And we get now the cannon shot here. And the trap is sprung, everyone is accounted for, the city is empty, now it's time for her to go all out. So she takes a quick slash at him to try and get him, but he evades back and he's just kind of grumpy, and we hear kind of the rumbling start up as he goes to turn into the big monster again. And so we see the ground start to split here. As he rises up from it, and we see that things are a little different. Instead of having the bony arm this time, we see that it's actually got skin on it. And he's basically done with trying to capture Aurora. He thinks he's decided that he's just going to kill her. And we see that as he rises up from the ground of this monster's true form, that instead of the skeletal creature that we've seen before, it now has skin and meat on it. We see it's got this nice little lion mane here. We actually see an inversion of the eyes, where the one eye, that original eye that the old sage still had, is now closed, and the only eyes that are left are his monster eyes. So that's just a nice little change there about how it's opposite now of what it was. That this dark infusion has just completely taken him over, or he's given himself more or less completely to it. For kind of some designs I went around with this creature, where it's actually King Caesar from Godzilla. I don't know why, but just kind of that lion mane like costume design. I thought, oh, I like that. I'm going to make him like that. It's not too often we get big, hairy, giant monsters. Typically they're like kind of Godzilla scaly monsters. But no, this is just a hairy one. We also see that the weirdness continues with him about him having two legs, who I think we'll see later, but the legs only have two toes on them. And he's got two tails here, just, tying into just kind of what a weird-looking creature this thing is. 4 arms, 6 fingers on each one, and just how 5 eyes. So there's just a large amount of ways that that physically this creature changes just to make things inconsistent across him. Something also to note that I forgot is that the sage sideburns are still maintained on him. So that's just, again, another fun little detail. Yeah, he's got this big mane, but he still has the sideburns from the sage. So how the fight goes, we got a quick blinding flash from Aurora, who tries to follow up with what worked last time and stab into him, only to find that she stopped. She can't stab into him. So this is just to kind of show that this fight won't be the same fight that happened in Eruption. The rules have changed a bit, and so it's going to be a toughie. So Aurora skids back, and we've got a bit of a taunting going on here, and we see him deliver a powerful attack, with the energy infusion hands as he kind of forms 2 of them into fists and kind of use them to hammer down on top of each other, and are actually able to crack Aurora's that's now invincible bubble shield. So once again, just showing how much stronger he is now, and how things quite aren't going to go as how we thought they were. The rules are changing a bit. And so takes a deep breath and just bellows out this nice red fire. She flies up to a void, and just this big blast wave goes out and goes, I guess, it's actually traveling this way, and incinerates the town underneath her. And so it's a good thing she got everyone out, because that place is now wasted. So she fires off a nuke ring back, hits the monster, Santa Claus drops on the ground. We get some nice stuff here. Fire still burning on the ground and burning more in the background. And he goes to he readies up his own charge and slams ground next to her with some energy blast. Thus kicking up some debris and hitting her, and see her protecting herself with wings. I do like using her wings now more as actual wings so they can bend and fold and protect her. She zips forward, goes for one of his feet and puts a small cut in it that annoys him slightly, and he steps on her, and she takes this chance to evade that, and now that the foot's back, hit it again harder, and she cuts into it pretty deep. So we can see that that's hurt him a bit, and he's rather annoyed. Once again, we can see those two toes weirdness going on there. So does a nice little handstand. I imagine handstands are quite a bit easier to do when you got 4 arms. And he gets her with a fire breath that toasts her and sends her back. And she notices her wings are on fire. Kind of, what's going on here? We've never seen her wings take damage before, but now we see that happening here. So a nice little wing flaps as she put out the fire. And I kind of explained that the fire, that this isn't just fire, but it's a type of magic fire that burns us now, the magic of a person. And so basically, this is how he's going to counteract her shining spirit, as he calls it. The thing where she dies, she goes into stage 3 and is able to obliterate targets like she did back with the Shadow of the Sun story with the big monster, and the original Solace story with that big monster. So this is how he plans to overcome it, is by burning away all her magic, so there's nothing left, so she can't do that. Likewise, she's noticed that he's not healing. That see, he's got a chest wound here. We can't really see it, but in previous shots, his forearms from where he blocked that nuka ring have been cut and aren't healing. And likewise, he's only able to use shadow magic. Oh, here it is. So he's unable to heal himself too as well. So we see the chest scar injury he got from when she tried to stab him, and the forearm damage from him blocking that nuka ring. So both of them are really able to be damaged at this point. And so that's just kind of how this this fight is going to play out, because Aurora's biggest weakness has always been trying to appear normal or mortality. Like when she uses regular weapons, they break. She's not the most coordinated in fighting. Listen now, she doesn't have the same coordination and dexterity that Sarah Vierge has for regular fights. So she gets by a lot on being able to heal herself and overpower her opponents. And we can see that this is being rubbed away here with these soul fires, or this hell flame, whatever, I don't know what to call it, but this nice creepy red fire. And it goes on to make the environment look like a nice hellish showdown. So, despite their weaknesses, they go and charge at each other. And so, see Aurora firing off nuka rings. He's avoiding it and doing more, called blast fists as he slams the ground next to her. She avoids that, does volleys. He takes some hits from those volleys and throws a nice little energy ball at her that she takes damage from. So they evade hits and take damage from each other, just kind of going back and forth with that. See that, he's quickly on top of her, pinning her to the ground. A nice little perspective thing going on here that I do enjoy. And starts trying to drag her along the ground. She works her way up to get out from underneath his palm. Starts zipping up his arm to go for his head. And then this back arm comes to grab at her, so she leaps off and cuts off one of the fingers from the arm flying at her. And so this is, while I'm kind of explaining what's going on, it's just to try and illustrate just kind of the nice fun flow that I'm trying to create with the fight, where one thing leads into another. So there's not a whole lot of, I guess you could say, hard cuts in between this pose and that pose. This led to this, and then this led to this. And so just how they respond to each other and create a real flow to the fight. And so he chases after her with more fire breath, which she just, as you can see, hits and tanks and starts getting burned as she goes through to fly in and put a deep cut onto one of his arms. And now she's behind him, so he spins around and goes to do a big forearm, four-fist dive slam into the ground. Now, I brought this up in the comments, but it took me a long time to try and figure out how to get this pose to work. And so there it is. I'm quite happy with it. So he slams all forearms into the ground, making this nice, big, huge explosion. As she gets launched goes flying through the air, rights herself. You can see her wings aren't out now, so she has to repop wings to steady herself in time, and fires off a volley that slams into his face. And she gears up and is ready to try and keep fighting. So she's got tricks to do, and he still's got more tricks. So we can see his arms and shoulders are more damaged. We can even see on his face here where part of his mane has been sheared away, and he's got a cut above one of his eyes here. So he's been taking damage. So he slams his hands into the ground beneath it and forces kind of energy through it out at her, and this catches her off guard, launches her in the air, and before she can recover, he's there and knocks her back down into the ground. She thuds into the ground with a hard crash. You can see here that her wings are gone from this hit. So she staggers up, tries to deploys her sword, and starts running. Can't really do the zip rush anymore, but runs up, hits. This is supposed to be his foot. She takes a whack at it. Gosh darn it! She takes a whack at it. Nothing, hits again very little. As she just frantically tries to hit it 3 times and nothing. We see now that her power is spent. She's got nothing left. That her wounds aren't healing. She's exhausted. So she starts to stagger back and takes a big old kick from the monster. So you can see with his weird toes. Sends her flying through the air. She flies there, and this is, fun note, the actual last time we get to see her tattoo. So just a little nod there, that's the last we see of it. She flies, lands into the fire, and we get this crater, and she's just spent, and she's down. So we get Sage, of course, taunting her about how that mortality was always her weakness, and so we get kind of a flashback up to how she looked at the start of the story. Well, not how she looked, but her, because my drawing has improved since then. But we get this nice throwback as to what she looked like when we first met her, with the brown hair and in the kind of the priest mantle, the vest, and the white robes, and how she looks now. So just a nice view to see how she's changed over the years. So nice little throwback to that. As she staggers up and takes on kind of this pose ready for fight. Now this pose is reminiscent of the original Aurora drawing I did way back during the original Gratz trilogy. I drew a drawing of a Tauren paladin with a shield and a sword standing on the light ring in kind of the jean blue jacket that she originally wore. So this is a reference back to the very first drawing of what would eventually become Aurora. And so this is a nice little page panel referencing that. And so this page actually put me in a very melancholic state for the day, just because, I'm sad Gratz is ending. It's saying goodbye to a good friend and something that's been a huge part of my life for the last 10 years. This has basically been my life, was doing this. And so kind of making callbacks to where it all started in this this story with her. It's kind of sad. It makes me sad. But move on. So we get Aurora's this now shining spirit, and with her gradually going to be progressing into stage 3. So we see here the first thing, the defending of the weak. Her hair starts to flit up. The healing of people. See her garb can no longer contain her as it rips apart. And her wings are deployed, and she's full on light. And we can actually see, kind of not really see, but her tattoo's gone now. As she starts to float off into the air.
talking about the kindness and compassion for people, and get this nice view of her. That this is how she always be before we get this full shot of her, of that before she had power, she was always had a shining spirit. And so, kind of, what this ties into is a couple of different things that go on over this page. First is that basically, I guess you could say the fighting and the defending of the weak. That is the lowest quality of what makes her good. So we see that only affects her hair. But then the healing of the sick and the injured, so the treating to people who are hurt, we see that is a bit stronger and higher ratings as her garb get torn. And then we can actually see the wings in her floating, when she's talking about the kindness and compassion. That's really what makes a person good, is just doing the small little things for people. That makes the biggest change. That's before going into this final, basically that it's the things that she's done all these things, but basically the thing that makes the biggest difference are just the small kind changes and services, small kind things that she'll do to help people. Those are the big things that really matter. And because of this, we also see that the cloth that wraps around her, which has historically been gold, is now actually white. Because this is the first time that she's actually activated or brought out stage 3 without having to be killed. So it's a full kind of acknowledgement that she's obtained kind of her, I guess, I don't want to call her power or true self, but an acknowledgement of how much further she's come. It's just pure white. Now, something that ties into as to why is she able to do this in the fire, which got rid of her golden wings and stuff. Why is that not really happening? Well, it ties into that the old sage never really understood the source of Aurora's powers. He always thought it was magic related, like some kind of spell enhancements and stuff like that. But that's never what it was. And so that's like why earlier on when he tested her or had with the control elf arrow, why she couldn't use any magic was because her spirit was being suppressed. Why when they tried to copy her with the morphing elf, she was just regular, that there's no extra power or anything in there. Because the source of her magic, it typically comes out as appearing to be magic and even behaves a lot like it. The real source of her power never was magic. It was the spirit and blessings from the light. And we see that in full here, that even though her magic has been exhausted and suppressed, her true power and blessings as Archon of the Light are still able to become shown, not be stopped or contained by petty earth means. So we see him start to freak out as she's done what he thought was impossible, and he starts to run away. She's not on run away. She shoots the beam out of a sword. A nice little fun angle there. You see just this beam tags him in the back. He tries to run away like a coward, and just as the explosion expands outward, we get this nice blast wave lifting the fire up as it goes out, and then the big beam of light going up into the sky. So now it's daytime, and we see the fight is over, and we start to go into the epilogue of Graz. So we see kind of the city where the fight had happened. We see the kind of blast waves from the light beam going out has completely leveled the city. Listen now that Führer's going to go home because they didn't win the war all on their own, so they're not going to claim it all because they don't think they deserve it. Thousand Land's not big on fighting anymore, so so a lot of them are going home. And we get a look at Allmeyer. About how they're just fighting now amongst each other. Kind of the best way to sum up is, listen now, is that they were the pinnacle of civilization of the Three Kingdoms. They're the most technologically advanced. And they waged a war to unify everyone, and instead it just divided them. And now they're just a bunch of idiots that fight with each other. It seems a bit harsh, but because I did have planned for a happier ending for Allmeyer, but they just didn't seem to deserve it. It didn't quite work out because they had been villains for the story for pretty much all of Spirit of Adventure. They didn't really seem to deserve a happy ending. Instead, I'd rather make it kind of as a kind of a point, but ended on the point with them that that just as the old sage was destroyed by his arrogance and pride, so was Allmeyer. That they thought that they knew best, so they went and picked a fight with everyone, and now they've pretty much lost everything. So, kind of idea is basically don't be a prideful fool. And we can see here that Fear of Thousand Land agreed, and the city's going under reconstruction as they start to rebuild it. And hopefully things will go better in the future now. And we get a nice look at what happened to all the people who helped Aurora. The troll captain, went back home. We can see his dad from the dark jungle. There's his mask. Them having dinner. This is reminiscent of the dinner that Aurora had with the troll captain and his dad way back in the dark at the end of the Dark Jungle story. But we can see this time, that Uwak is here to join in the feast, and so they're just happily at home now. You can see Exura got herself a boyfriend, and that things are going good for her, and that she's moving on with her life, and he's getting to be a dad again. So he gets all the joy that comes with it. We see Roland has retired now. Well, we don't exactly say where. We got some clues indicating on where it is, with this house under construction. A house that uses the Central City model is here, and we even got a Taran here. So it's should be implied or inferred that basically he settled down in the Central City where it'll be safe for his grandkids. And so we can see that he's just wearing a sweater and stuff. He doesn't got his trench coat on. He doesn't need it. And I do kind of like this. And he's got a grandkid holding on to his shirt sleeve where his hand is missing. Well, this other one holds the other kid he's got up. So he's a happy granddad. Spending time with his grandkids. And now we come to where Servirge and Tyria settle in at. So once again, this is another implied thing that with the roof pattern, they have settled in the Central City also. Technically, they're on the outside of it, as we can kind of see some trees here. And what this is supposed to be is a little shooting range. So it kind of makes sense why you would want to be on the outside of the city if you're going to be shooting guns. And you see Tyria's little shop is back up. And so, see that Tyria is happily selling guns. She's actually got customers this time. And Servirge is there helping out and being supportive of her, keeping things clean and organized. And we see that Aurora's made it. That she's now crashing at Servirge's place again. Make a nice little joke with that. Now the question is, did Aurora's tattoo come back? The answer is yes, but we won't see it again in the story. But I just want to throw out that yes, she does have that tattoo back. That always comes back. Just because it's the emblem of her character, like I've explained before a couple of times now. So we get just further clarification here that yes, they're right outside Central City, and a nice little joke about her walking on people in the bathroom. So just a nice little fun there. And so while this this brings us to the update, it doesn't bring us up to the story. So to see the actual last page of Gratz, I'm going to bring it up over here. And so we see, this view isn't very good, but we see that Ironjaw has survived. Yep, Ironjaw lives. Now, you won't get to see this before that page goes up, but yep, he survived. Servirge kept him alive, so that way he could take Servirge's spot in adventuring with Aurora to keep her safe and help watch over the pack. For Servirge to take care of his pack and keep them safe, he needed someone to watch Aurora. but he also needed to settle down with Tyrea, so he can't be in two places at once. So he went and recruited some help, and that was Ironjaw, who's sprouting a design that's a bit reminiscent of his old one, combined with Sarah Verdre kind of representing that. He's got the big shoulders like his old design, but he's got the gray shirt that like Sarah Verdre used to wear. So it gets just some jokes about how this is basically going to be a tough job, but something that he can do. Us now, and Aurora is set to go out on a new adventure, and Ironjaw's going to use the portal so they can get around faster. And a nice little joke here about Ironjaw getting Aurora back home not long after dark and keeping her safe. And so that way, from this point, they can leave out on adventures and return to their home base. And we end with this. Let's now take care of our little girlie, which is what Sarah Verdre called Aurora for the longest time, was girlie. And so that's the ending of Gratz. I want to thank everyone for reading it this whole time, and I mean, it's just been a big part of my life, and I'm sad to see it. I am sad to see it go, but when the second most important part of a story is its ending, and so I hope that this ending left a good impression with everyone, and that this will be a story that they'll enjoy. That they not only that they've enjoyed, but they might even feel like coming back and reading from time to time. I said just as a guess, but if things get hard, if life gets tough, or you need something to keep you company in your loneliness, Gratz will always be here. You'll always be able to come back and read this story. And I hope the ending will, now that you know it's ending, that you'll find, I guess, a lot of happiness basically in it. I do have other stuff coming up, but that's for a later time. But yeah, thank you. And I hope all goes well for you.